In the northwest corner of Massachusetts, in the heart of the Berkshires, sits the town of North Adams. It was essentially a one-company town until that company closed. But its economy would be turned around by something called MassMOCA.
Well, I think like most old industrial communities across the Northeast, most of them are one-industry communities, much like North Adams, Massachusetts. Sprague dominated everything here for better than 50 years. They controlled our labor force, they controlled our economy. They had a lot to do with everything from the United Way board to who was membership of the YMCA to an overall impact on our economy, which couldn't really be measured, but when they left, we certainly felt their impact.
From North Adams' point of view, there was a great need to develop this site. It's a third of the downtown business district, and it casts a huge shadow over the town because for 120 years at least, it's been the socioeconomic heart and soul of North Adams.
Well, I think when Sprague Electric left, they and other antiquated industries also left our community. We were left really at the bottom of the heap. We were looking up. We were described as a classic example of urban blight in the Northeast, along with many other communities. And what we had to do was to look at new ways to do things. We couldn't continue along the path of going and chasing smokestacks all over the place and trying to bring industry back to the city of North Adams. We had to look in new directions. And you can imagine the surprise of many when I said to the citizens of this community, which basically are blue collar as I am, and said we're going to save this region with a Museum of Contemporary Art. I said I don't understand what it is, I don't understand anything about it, nor do I pretend to. But it's an economic development project that I think that we have to take a serious look at.
When we first came in the late 80s, it was beautiful. Had just been emptied by Sprague Technologies. All the light switches worked. The paint was beautiful. The floors were in perfect shape. The roof had not yet begun to leak, and it was in great shape. Over the next 8 or 9 years, as we had to gather the resources and funding and get the politics right and undertake all the studies that one needs to do on this project, the buildings began to fall apart. So by the time we began construction, roofs had been leaking and there were all kinds of problems. Pigeons had inhabited the place and it was a mess.
MassDEP got involved with the former Sprague facility in 1987. They had the primary contaminant they had detected at that time was PCBs. This was used as part of their manufacturing process for capacitors, electrical capacitors that were used there.
Among the more exotic issues we faced was this site was a listed site with the NRC because Sprague Electric had used uranium oxides to essentially impregnate ceramics for making capacitors, and the buildings in which those production processes that take place were listed and controlled and licensed, so it had to be taken off license, and there was a massive cleanup of that, which involved scaling 2 inches of concrete on the floor of Building 6, which is our largest building, and other things. I got used to wearing this little contamination badge to work for the first 3 or 4 years that I was here.
And if the badge were turned to color?
The badge turned to color, which it never did. I had to go report myself to people who would do something. It was something we didn't want to face.
I think one of the lessons that we learned, as well as DEP, that not only can they be helpful, they're not only a regulatory body, because that's the way we've always looked upon them, but also one that can help change the landscape of the community, and that's what they did by working with us. Not only did it transform our entire economy here, it also transformed the entire area. Today we're well poised to move into the future with our economy. We now have one that's diversified. We took old mill property, which was trying to be marketed as incubator buildings for many years. It's now a home of many artists and artist lofts, and they have their studios there. So many good things happening within the city. Within 6 months after MassMOCA opened, we saw 6 new restaurants open in our downtown area. We saw a blighted area converted into hotels and inns and things like this. So many good things happened, and it's translated, I'm sure, into millions and millions of dollars. But it's a classic example of how government can have an impact and bring private sector investment into a community. What they did with MassMOCA, we should be their poster child throughout the state of Massachusetts and perhaps New England.